Thank you.
I'm going to start here by we want to show off our rating technology, our rate manual, and the point of this is we're trying to gain your we're trying to get your confidence in what we're doing here. We've created we believe we've created a rate manual that's an appropriate tool for the marketplace below 100 employees. And there's features of it that we think are unique that are very well suited to what we do. And we want to show you guys exactly. We're going to go right inside the black box here and show you how it works. The first thing I'm starting with is just kind of a fuzzy screenshot of our input screen. And we built an input that kind of tried to mimic the SBC put out by Obamacare. So the sequence of our input does follow the exact sequence of the SPC, so that if you had an SPC in front of you, you could just go right down the row and fill in all the parameters. But that's kind of fuzzy, so I'm going to show you the actual. This is the actual Excel now. You all have my visual, right? You can see the Excel input screen.
Yep.
And what I've loaded up, this is an actuarial calculator, actually, actual value calculator, and we've tested it against the federal calculator. And we're generally within 2% of measurements up and down the whole line on the federal calculator, particularly when it's a fairly simple plan. We believe the federal calculator goes off the rails when you start getting in lots of co-pays and some of these bizarre HMO plans that we see around the country. But we think we're more accurate than the federal calculator, and hopefully you'll think so when you're done the demo here. But this is the Excel input, and I'll just scroll up. You can see more deep. You can see clearly now that this is the prescription drugs co-pays go in here and so on, and all your other co-pays. We got on-off switches for subject to deductible, subject to co-insurance. We can actually put any coverage we want in and out of the model. So we could actually build a MEC plan if we wanted to with this thing. So what's special about what we do? Of course, in Excel is pretty cool because the results are instantaneous. I can change deductible, I immediately get the actual value. But the magic of this is that we take it's all built on claim distributions. And I want to show you two different matrices that are being generated simultaneously as we calculate actuarial values. And the first matrix, what happened here? Too far down here. The first matrix is, let me get up to the right spot. Here we go. So I hope you can see that. I guess I can enlarge the font a little bit here so you can see it a little better. I'm having trouble with my screen there. So we build a matrix of, why am I jumping around like this? Hold on, guys. Just did this yesterday with no problem here. There we go. The first matrix I want to show you is a total transparency of the frequency and unit cost data. For every one of these categories down the SBC, down this side of the page, we have frequency and unit cost. So, we've got 2,234 doctor copays in here, and we've got unit cost, we've got the total cost. And the total adds up, our gross total cost adds up right here to 5.3 million. This is on a population of 1,000 members. And this number will agree with the national statistics published by the Healthcare Cost Institute, which is like the biggest publicly available database of employer-sponsored healthcare. So we line up with the national statistics. So I guess I kind of view this model as kind of the center of gravity of the national cost and national statistics. And then we further have these columns where we break out the amount of money going towards deductible, co-insurance, and co-pays for our plan design. So the plan that we're looking at is an 80% plan with a $1,000 deductible. If I look at the bottom, what we're saying is we're spending $585,000 here on deductible expense in this plan design. So that's about $585 per member out of a $1,000 deductible. They're spending 58% of their deductible. The co-insurance, which was an 80% co-insurance, is here. Our plan design only had co-pays on drug coverage, which is here, generic brand, non-formulary. And out here in the far right, we actually show how many co-pays we have in our model. So our model's got 5,600 generic co-pays. So that,
are you using a certain percentage for generic versus brand?
well, our model has 5,633 generic scripts per 1,000 members, and the model has 2,000 brand.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it's not.
4,000.
It's in as a frequency number, not as a percentage.
Okay.
Yeah, everything we have is a frequency and a unit cost in the model. So this is one matrix. Now the other relevant matrix is to look at this thing in terms of a claim distribution. So here's the claim distribution. We're taking the same set of cost figures and we've laid it into a distribution. What did I do? Jump around again? At the bottom of this row, hold on. There we go. Column E here is gross claims. There's the 5.3 million. That's the exact same number we saw in the other display. And now we're taking these deductible expenses and we're putting them in a claim distribution. And if you look at the bottom of the claim distribution down here, there's your 585,000 that's being incurred by participants to satisfy their deductible. So everything we do is slicing and dicing two ways. One way in a display by line item and a display in terms of a claim distribution. Similarly with the co-insurance over here and the co-payment. You see we got the RX co-payments and we have those in our distribution. They add up to $134,000 worth of RX co-pays. If we jump back to the other display, we got the same $134,000 here. Here it's split between generic brand. So what we really have here is a kind of I call it a uniform field theory. It's like a total ground up claim manual. Like what you're looking at here on the screen in front of you is what a fully insured claim manual might look like. But this is what we've done that's unique. By converting it to a claim distribution, we've now moved it into a spec and ag manual. So it moves seamlessly between a spec and ag manual and a ground up claim manual. And this is why we think we get very good attachment points based on plan design using this approach. And I want to do a few gymnastics for you here that I think will be pretty impressive. Just to give you some idea of the flexibility of this thing, I'm going to go into the primary care visits here, which is currently subject to deductible. I'm going to stick in a $10 copay. So I'm going to say this thing is no longer subject to deductible, and now it has a $10 copay. And if we go look at the results of this, what we're going to see here, we're going to see we've now embedded $21,000 worth of primary care copays at $10 a piece. Now, what you should ask yourself is, wait a minute, Rick, if we got 2,234 copays at $10 a piece, how come it's 21,000 and not 22,000? And the answer is that copays under Obamacare are now subject to the out-of-pocket limit. And what we see happening here is there's about 100 copays that are being trimmed off of the system because they're being incurred by people who have hit their out-of-pocket limit. And I'll prove that to you by coming over here. I'll come back to my plan design. And I'm going to hit my little switch here, which says, does the out-of-pocket include copay? I'm going to make that no. I'm going to say, well, let's go back to the old-fashioned way before Obamacare. Now the copays are hanging out there on their own. And now we see this $10 copay is indeed worth $22,340, exactly $10 per copay. And not only that, this $22,340 thing is also spread through our claim distribution. We now have medical copayments here in column K that add up to $22,340, and we have them spread, up and down our claim distribution. Let me go back and throw in another twist here. Let's put that back to Obamacare. Let's toss in a $100 pharmacy deductible in front of the pharmacy copays. If we look at our traditional display, now we see some right here in this section. We see some deductibles for generic brand and brand. So we're running up $84,000 of deductible by putting that $100 deductible in front of drug expense. We see how it's broken out between generic brand and brand non-formulary. And similarly, we see how it's spread. The RX deductible column now shows the $84,000 spread in the claim distribution. So what we have here is a very intimate connection between plan design and spec and ag price points. Because, if we got a $25,000 spec, all this stuff, there's your spec cost right there. So what I'm showing you actually takes any minor plan design change and translates it into spec and ag, even a copay. This model tells you how much does the spec risk change if you change copay by $1. You can measure the change in this model. Okay, brief pause while I check my notes to see if there was some other cool thing I wanted to show you. Here's something I wanted to point out. If we look back, you'll notice that we took a few steps ago. We took provider copay and we made it no longer subject to deductible. So this became zero. In other words, we put in a copay rather than deductible. The fact that this became zero meant that there was less benefits to which the deductible applied. And if you remember, we had 580 something. Remember, this number used to be 580. And now it's 530. Well, that's because you can't use your deductible for doctor copays anymore. And therefore, there's less places to use your deductible. So we think by knocking physician copay out of the subject to deductible category, we've just cut our deductible expense by about $50,000. And we added $21,000 to copay. So, when you flip back and forth from a copay not to a copay, the actual value kind of doesn't change. So that's what you're seeing here. If we put in I think a $20 copay is just about a normal offset to a Yeah, see, that's what we see. When you put in the $20 doctor copay, the actual value doesn't change. And this is why, because you're incurring $42,000 of, copays are worth 42, and the impact on no longer having the deductible applied was about 50. So it's kind of an offset, and the actual value really didn't change much with that flip to a $20 copay. And that will occur up and down the row. Every time we eliminate the deductible applying to one category, it reduces by some amount the total amount of money that goes to the deductible. And of course, at every step of the way, this matrix, exactly tracks everything on a claim distribution system. Any questions there? So when we work, this is the matrix then that generates our spec prices. And every time we change plan design, it changes this whole matrix and produces a spec and an ag price, which we think is amazingly accurate and tied to the plan design. And now I want to talk about the impact of this in terms of working together. Let's look at this matrix. I've summarized the results of we have an array of sample plans here, your platinum, gold, silver, and bronze plan. And from the model I just showed you, I've summarized the data, the above and below. Above and below, that's what we just talked about. Above and below the spec deductible. That's this stuff. This stuff's below, and this stuff's above. So above the deductible is essentially the spec claim cost, and below is the attachment claim cost. And the 5.3 million, that's what we started with. That's the ground up claims for our sample population of 1,000 members. Now, simply by the definition of platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, which are 90, 80, 70, 60, these are the net claims. The difference is paid by out-of-pocket and copay and stuff. And when we run this through our model, as you just saw, I started out with the gold plan in the model. This is the amount above the spec. Here, this is a studies on 25,000 spec. So the amount above and the amount below. And it's in perfect harmony because these two amounts above and below the line have to add up to this, and this has to be 60% of this, or else it's not a bronze plan. So if you whatever your starting prices are, your bronze has to be 60%, and your two pieces have to add up to that. Has to add up to the total, even if you dispute what the two pieces are. Now, here's what we find in working with our other stop-loss partners. We tend to agree on the spec price kind of up and down the line, because the spec price, the spec claim obligation of the carrier is generally a function of the out-of-pocket. You know what I mean? I mean, if it's a $25,000 spec and there's a $5,000 out-of-pocket, it generally has to be a $30,000 ground-up claim before you see it, before you got to pay anything. The employee pays the first $5,000, employer pays the next 25, and then you pick it up when it hits 30,000. So everybody kind of sees it that way, and so Michelle will tend to agree with our spec price as we move up and down the plan design array here. But what we find, and this is the problem we have with all our other carriers, is that we don't believe they have the proper tools to model this aggregate risk. And none of the people I've asked have ever been able to explain to me exactly what they do to set attachment points, other than we get sounds like a lot of hocus pocus to us, factors and what they take. I don't know what they do. I can never understand what they do. They take their address and divide by 8 or something. But they tend to get an attachment point, which we believe is somewhat accurate if it's a 90 or 80% plan. So whatever these routines are that carriers use to set attachment points, they seem to get it right up in this zone up here. But what we continually find is, as we move down here to a silver and a bronze plan, and believe me, in the lower end, we find the lower you go in the market, the lower the plan design. The small employers are very fond of bronze and silver plans. And what we find is that the carriers tend to cling to this number, so that we're down here with a bronze and silver plan, and we're thinking 2.2 million and 1.7 million. And the carrier's still talking about a 2.7 million attachment point. That's what we find, and we believe that's why Michelle came back and told us she needed 26% more for Aberdeen Road construction. Because we believe Michelle's still playing around up here, and we dropped our number down here. That's what we think's going on. And I don't know what to do other than challenge Michelle here. Look, Michelle, I'm challenging you to put together this matrix for Aberdeen, and we'll be happy to do it too. But if you take Aberdeen and you run Aberdeen at these 5 plan designs, and you can lay in whatever spec you want and whatever attachment you want, use your manual. And I would challenge you to use your manual and fill in this entire table. And what I claim is that when you add your spec and your ag together, that your total will not be 60% of what you start with over here. So I challenge you to do that.
Okay.
To prove my point that,
I know.
if it's a bronze plan, it's a bronze plan. Or if it's a silver plan, it's a silver plan. If you don't trust this silver plan, take it off the federal calculator and then fill in your spec and your ag, and I guarantee it won't be 70% of what you think the ground up is. This is all claims cost, by the way, guys. Everything on the screen here. So I don't know. I mean, if you accept that challenge and do it, then I hope that's a step towards acknowledging that there's some credibility. Another way of putting this is I believe that the models used in the stop loss market generally, and I've challenged a lot of big companies in this regard who didn't seem to be able to reproduce these numbers.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Rick, it's Jim. Yeah, I think more of the challenge is coming up with the column E for us.
Well, you pick
I
it.
mean, towers has the distribution of what you can expect for the excess.
Yeah.
But, the real magic is getting that column E correct.
Well, column F is just the sum of the claims in your spec and ag, and then column E is just column F divided by column C, right?
Right.
So
These are all manually derived.
yeah, these are 100% of our manual. Our manual.
There's definitely going to be a disconnect between your model and towers.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying towers is right. I think your model is much more sensitive to plan design.
Yeah. Well, what's happening here is that none of this really matters in the traditional stop loss market. I don't, HM once told me their average deductible was over $100,000. And if you're up at the deductible of over $100,000 and you're dealing with bigger employers, none of this really matters. This stuff becomes starkly different when you get down to low deductibles, such as $25,000, and you get into 70 and 60% plan designs. Then
Right.
This becomes dramatic, but this is our marketplace.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the disconnect, I think, is that what the traditional markets do works for them in the old traditional market.
Yeah. It'll be interesting.
Michelle, I'm curious, on Aberdeen, where was your disconnect that you needed 26% more? Was it in total or the ag?
It was on the ag.
It was on the ag.
Yep.
Where did you match up on the spec?
I was writing check with the numbers that were given to me, and then on the aggregate, I was actually 28% higher. And
So
that was
what kind of plan was it?
we used. Looks like there was two of them. There was an HMO and a PPO.
Yeah, Wes is looking up the actual values that we had.
Where we showed the HMO had a $3,000 out of pocket, the PPO in network was $3,000, out of network was $6,000.
And we had they were both about a 75% actuarial value.
Yeah, and see, our model doesn't show the actuarial value, Rick. So basically, we have to enter, and when I say we're very restricted as to what we can enter for plan benefits, I agree with what Jim is saying, that you're articulating very granular details where our model does not allow us to get that granular.
Yeah, and this is where I'm hoping to gain your trust, because it took about a year, but our other carrier eventually came about to embrace our mathematics as being pretty good. So it may take a while, but we hope to gain your belief, that we have a mathematical model that makes sense and it works in the marketplace that we're in.
Well, just to introduce something here, if you look at the 100% plan gross claims, 5,003,330.
Yes.
317, or I guess that's for any of the plans. I just wonder where our model is, the Towers Watson model is versus that number. If we ran that manual and then tested the sensitivity to all the other functions, I mean, are we having problems on the left-hand column? I think that's what you were getting at, weren't you, Jim?
Well,
yeah, correct.
Well, I'm saying you can start with any column E you want. I mean, whatever you think it is. I'm just saying that there's certain aspects of this table that have to be locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Column F has to be.
But I mean, I can test the sensitivity to the various,
Yeah.
the platinum, silver, bronze. See how the spec and ag moves as you go down that. As you go down, in plan design value. I mean, it's easy enough to test using the model. It'd be interesting to see how it compares with what you're.
Yeah, that would be interesting, Chuck. I was going to suggest that.
Yeah.
like my concern was, as Jim expressed, is maybe our starting point is not in line, and then when you change, if the starting point is out of line, then everything's going to be out of line. But we have to look at it more carefully, I guess.
Well, it's a simple little matrix, so yeah, I challenge you to
I don't
put out in here, put something in here.
Yeah, we should be able to do that, Rick.
Because we can do this for any group that we run. We can show you what we think this matrix is.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's one point I want to make. There's another area where we're going to have difficulty, I believe, and I'm going to tell you that compared to Tillinghast. Here's the same matrix. I guess this is what we just looked at. But I want to talk about age factors. We built this. I call this as a unified ground up and spec combination manual. And I don't know. Does anybody have one of these things? I haven't found anybody who's got one yet, but we built our ground up age factors. Here I got a screenshot of the Society of Actuaries study that was published. I believe this is pretty rock solid science. The Society of Actuaries did this study. It's an extensive amount of detail. And these age factors line up perfectly with the historical factors I've always used. These are kind of gold plate age factors, and they really haven't changed much in 40 years, to be honest. So we build the ground up. These are the ones we use. I think this is the best science that's available. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to come over here, and I highlighted this bronze. Let's suppose this bronze plan. My numbers are correct here, and this is my standard population. The standard population, let's assume it has an average age of 40. Most standard populations correspond with an age factor of 40. Now, suppose we had a group of all 50-year-olds here, age 50. According to the Society of Actuary factors I just showed you, this 3.19 would jump up to 5.3 million for a bunch of 50-year-olds, 1,000 50-year-olds. It would jump up to this for 60-year-olds and this for 65. So in other words, these are the age factors ground up. And then when we look at Tillinghast, who's given us age factors for the amount above the deductible, the Tillinghast age factors would drive this 1.5 million spec claim cost up by these factors. So you can see that the Tillinghast, these are male age factors at the older ages, are much steeper than the Society of Actuaries says the ground up factors are. Yeah, which is fine. I don't dispute that. Well, I don't dispute that they're higher, steeper. But when you look at it in this unified way, the unified field theory, if this is ground up claims and this is spec claims, the balance has to be the attachment point.
Right.
And what we found in our research is that we didn't think these attachment points are going up fast enough. These are the reverse engineered factors. These factors are up 30%, 64%, and 2.25 factor. And I don't think that's steep enough for the attachments.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
So we concluded, that was very interesting, we concluded that the Tillinghast factors were too steep. And I certainly agree that the spec claims go up faster than in other words, these factors would be bigger than these factors, but I think Tillinghast is too steep because there's not enough room left to increase the aggregate factors. So here's what's interesting. After we concluded that in our own research.
What spec is that, Rick? Is that 25,000?
25, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So when I'm on the mailing list of all these publicly available rate filings, And lots of times these public rate filings kind of let things loose that probably should not be let loose. So I get a hold of rate filings from, they're publicly available. They have stamped on them, do not disclose to the public. But the stupid insurance companies, I don't know, the bureaucracy just lets it loose and emails it to me. But what we found twice now, we found that when Aetna filed their stop loss rate filing, Aetna took these Tillinghast age factors at the older ages and they moderated them. They dampened the slope. And then I found another company, I forget the name, but it's like a fully insured company. And they did the same thing. They modified the Tillinghast age factors at the older ages. So what I'm thinking, my theory is that Aetna is a fully insured, ground up type company. And Aetna does modeling the way we do, and so does other company. So I'm thinking that all the fully insured type people, not all of them, but at least two of them, figured out the same thing we figured out, that Tillinghast is just a little heavy-handed on their age factors for males at the older ages. So anyway, that's just a long preamble to the fact that I suspect that we will also find that when we have an older male group, that Michelle will begin to tell us that our spec prices are too low. And that's because we've also modified the Tillinghast slope in our model. So,
well, interestingly enough, Rick, even on Aberdeen, the average age is 50, and it's representing 76% males, and our age adjustment factor is 1.91.
what are you comparing that to this thing here?
Yeah.
So anyway, they're just two areas. We found we have those two areas of problem. We have problems on the aggregate on low actuarial value plans, and we have disputes on the spec cost on these older male groups. But I'm telling you, I already know what we're going to have problems with, but I'm trying to show you that we believe we have good science. We have Aetna on our side. Aetna thought the same thing we think. So I think we do have some science, to back up what we do in regard to those 2 points.
Mm-hmm. Now, where would your model be, Rick, with the above deductible age factors approximately?
Well, I just something not this steep. I don't know. Maybe we got 4.2 here rather than 4.8 or something. Okay. 4.3.
It's still significant. It's just not as severe.
Yeah. I mean, we believe that we believe in the general direction of what these things are trying to do.
Right.
We just were alarmed in our model of how we weren't getting enough attachment point on these older guys. So we think we have a better balance. But anyway. Okay, we're at 2:48 on my clock, and the last thing I wanted to show you was our online tools. So if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to leave this rate manual stuff.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This entire rate technology is online. So I'm going to go live on the internet here. This is unrehearsed, or this is, I like to say, without a safety net here. I'm going online. This software was built for us by our software partner out in Nevada, Carson City, Nevada. And what we did was we put the entire actuarial value calculator that we just showed you was online. In fact, I'll jump right to it here, just to start off.
You said there was a licensing fee, Rick?
Not really. No, we're giving this away to anybody. I mean, we get to our partners, the people that we're working with, that we're making money from, get to have this thing.
Nice.
What's that? I should look at the sample. Yeah, so anyway, this is the same screen you saw before. This is the online version. The same thing you saw in
Right.
Excel. And the entire technology from Excel is in this thing. It's a little more clunky because it's a data, it's an online database. So I got an 80.3 actual value up here in the upper right. I'll just change a deductible from 1,500 down to 1,000. And if we're lucky, the actual value will drop from 80.3 to, I'll hit the calculate button. We got to wait a minute for it to calculate, but that thing ought to drop below, or move up, I guess, move up to something 82, 81.9.
You're slipping, Rick.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't know that one. But it's all identical technology. But let me walk through the proposal process. And this is what we do to do proposals. We got steps here. Step one, you add the group, you load up the census, you map the tier structure into the tier structure, you build your plan design from our actual value calculator, and you print the proposal. So let me show you this thing. This is our screen just to build a group. Just a simple little screen. You put in the name and address and stuff and SIC code. Not much involved there. Step two is to load the census. We have a nice, we have an Excel. You just get your Excel workbook and hit the upload in Excel thing and upload it, and there it is. We got a drop down, we could have all the groups. In fact, the broker that we're working with, Michelle, that we gave you Aberdeen from, we've got a login for him, and he can just drop down his groups like this. And this is pretty cool. That every census you get, the tier structure is defined differently. So this is a little utility that on the left, it'll identify what tier structure was provided in the Excel book, and then we just map it into whatever we want. We use a 4-tier structure in this system. Like sometimes we get 6 tiers coming in. We map those 6 to these 4. So it's neat because you don't have to like pre-change the tiers in the whatever Excel book you get from the broker. So we got the group, we loaded up the census, then we come here and we build whatever plan we want for that group. We can clone plans from the other group. If it's kind of the same plan the other group had, we got a clone button. The clone will just kind of reproduce, and then we can make 1 or 2 changes, and we have the new plan. And then we come over here to build a proposal screen. Can I do this one here, Wes? Sure. This is build your proposal. And this is what we use. Here's where we map the plans that we have built to, or the plan designations that are on the census to the plans that we built in our actual value calculator. We got drop downs to pick whatever broker we're using. And when you pick a broker, it automatically fills in the default fee that broker charges. We got a bunch of administrators we're working with. If you change administrator, it changes the fee. The fee just went $19.60 for this guy. And we got our network selection. When you pick a network, it changes the fee. If you don't like the fee, you just go in and change the fee to whatever you want it to be. You can put in all this other crap that brokers like to sell. Implementation fees, hourly services, all this string ornaments that brokers add on here. We got a button, pick a plan, and a broker could put whatever notes they want in here. And then we hit the save button.
So the brokers can basically get an illustrated quote themselves?
Yeah, based on our manual, it's not approved. But yeah, I mean, this is very handy. Like a lot of brokers come to us and say, or they have a fully insured employer who just wants to see, an idea what it would cost for spec and ag. So yeah, you can generate the thing, submit the quote, and this gives you a thumbnail sketch of what we think the price ought to be. This is probably like 80% of our manual or something. We got like what we think the starting price is. Now this doesn't come to you until we look at it, and we'll look at it, and we may bump it up to 90% of manual or whatever, or down to 70, whatever we think the price is that ought to be. So now the broker could look at this, and the broker could say, I don't like this maximum cost. Let's lower the plan design and see if we can change that, so they can come back in here. And then go back here and pick another. Do we have any other plan options here? What's this WW plan?
It's just testing.
We'll put everybody on plan 2. How's that? Can we do that?
I think so. We'll find out.
There. We'll save that thing. So we put everybody on plan 2. We got rid of plan 1. What?
That didn't work.
Why didn't it work?
Must not let you do that.
Yeah, done those yet. Anyway, well, you get the idea here. That certainly works with your group here.
Rick, is there an area where you're putting in some type of rate adjustment for the wellness program or the med management that Eric has?
Well, that would be simply embedded. I mean, it all has that. So we've put an opening bid, so to speak. Our benchmark for Eric is like 80% of our manual, and that includes acknowledgement of his program.
Okay.
You had something to say, Greg?
So, Rick, so your expected claim cost on the aggregate is $873, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
And so the ag attachment point, the minimum ag attachment point would be that $1,047,000 on top?
Yes.
Okay. And are there factors that go along with that ag?
Pardon me? Oh,
factors?
Yeah, if you come down here, you get the factors here. I'm going to generate page 1 and just see the factors. This is the thing we send to Michelle. This is just sort of a thumbnail sketch for the broker to look at. So this is the thing this is like the full-blown thing with all the factors.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is our detailed.
That's impressive.
Got all this stuff on it. So there's the $1,047,000 you were just talking about right there, and the $873 expected. And here's the factors.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And those are all in numbers, correct? Meaning all the fees, admin fees, and everything, right?
Well, that's at the bottom. Yeah, here's the all-in numbers here.
Okay. Perfect.
This is the grand total. So these are all in. This is everything: the broker fee, the admin fees.
Yeah, Michelle, the next page shows you the breakdown of the admin fees and the broker fees.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have printed all 3 pages here. Then we got a Cobra on the last page. Did I hit the generate button?
Yeah, it takes a little longer.
Oh, yeah, it takes a little longer. All right, well, that's, yeah, here's page
2.
Page 2. There's the fees that we have in here. We've got an estimate of these ACA taxes. Then we show what plan designs we quoted. And here's our actual values for those 2 plans. And then our third page is the we give them the Cobra rates for those 2 plans.
And that's basically 102%.
Yeah, we toss in the we toss in the ACA fees. And if it's a 12-12, we toss in the reserve. So there's a little, but yeah, and then we add 2% to it.
Gotcha. Very impressive.
Sure is.
So that's what we got. And
The nice thing about it too, guys, is like Rick said, if he sends it to you guys and you approve it, then it goes back to the broker. If the broker's out with the client and the client says, I like this $1,500 80% plan, but what if we made it $2,500 80%? He can change that on a dime there and show them exactly what the difference would be. So that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, we would hope that you gain enough confidence that once you approve this plan design, I mean, if this is the plan you approve, that you would trust that when we change this to a 69% plan, the subsequent change that you automatically approve, that's what we will eventually request from you. But, I mean, I know you have to work with us and gain some confidence first.
Sure. I'm sorry, Rick. Just I missed it. What is the actuarial value?
I'm sorry.
What does that?
What
does that represent?
Oh,
Yes.
That just means that the deductibles and copays and coinsurance is worth 28%, and the employer's got to pick up 72 cents of every dollar of medical expense that's incurred. So that's just the relative value compared to a medical plan that paid 100% of everything.
Gotcha. Okay.
Gotcha.
I'm very impressed.
All right. Well, I didn't manage the time. I like to keep these to an hour, and I did. Remember we talked about the 17 points?
Yeah.
I did have the other thing I wanted to cover was a slideshow that showed you what those 17 points was, but
I think you added one while we're there.
Pardon me? I added one.
I think you added another one while we're there.
So I don't know. You guys want to? Is that enough for today? We'll do the 17 points some other day, or what? Or you want to just go for 15 more minutes?
I'm open.
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
We're all here. It might take us a while to get up, all recongregate. So.
All right. Here we go then. Let's see. How do you get this thing to go here? Play from the start. There we go. These are the 17 points of light. Oh, what is this? What do you say? Oh my gosh. I rehearsed this whole presentation. I walked through it. This didn't happen when I rehearsed. All right, well, we'll just go with this. Can you guys read okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
All right, point number 1 here. Just keep your eyes, and you're not allowed to cheat now. You're not allowed to look ahead. Partnership, our programs, we like to think that we're partners with you, and we act like we own your loss ratio. So we just want to say that we're really asking you to be a partner with us, not we'll be a partner with you to help each other. We need each other to achieve each other's goals. So that's sort of the premise of any good business relationship. When we manage a book of business, I always say you got to sell something and then manage it. So Michelle may think we're a little reckless trying to sell something, but we're very diligent and disciplined in managing once we sell it. And we like to view this as 3 risk layers, just like a captive here. We got the working layer in the middle. We got the self-funded layer, the working layer that a captive would keep, and the reinsurance layer that a captive would buy reinsurance. And we're looking for you guys to be our partner with the top 2 layers. You're our partner for the working layer and the reinsurance layer. And I told you when we visited here, we like to buy a lot of stop loss. So we like to, the more stop loss we can convince the people to buy, the more we like it, because it helps us manage the program. Once you got low spec deductibles, you got a lot of money to work with. And you got a lot more stability in everything you do.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, well, you guys agreed with that right off the bat. We like paid contracts. We like to start out with 12-12. This allows us to roll groups into self-funding at the same as fully insured and blah, blah, blah. We can come on, you got a risk corridor, so that's their IBNR. So we're just a big believer in start with 12-12 and then jump to a 24-12 at renewal. That's the way to do things. These people want these incurred contracts. It's like, well, why do you want that? You're buying something you already think it isn't going to work, right? You already want the tail to be covered so you can jump out of the boat. Well, don't get in the boat, if you're planning on jumping out. That's the way I look at it. We're going to encourage our customers to put maximum funding into their account. That's just so much nicer. They build a surplus. When they put in maximum funding, it's so much easier to keep the program rolling along with lots of cash. Everybody's got a lot of money. After 3 years, we got so much surplus, we don't know what to do with it. We like to have ag breaches, and we like to have enough premium to pay for them. And what we find in our model, because we have low spec deductibles, we like to have a lot of small ag breaches. I mean, not a lot, but I'm just saying that.
Jim, are you still breathing off after that one?
Well, some underwriter said they'd get fired if there's an ag breach. I don't know if you're going to fire Michelle if there's an ag breach. If they are, Michelle, you better quit now because we're going to have some ag breaches.
Rick, I'm coming to work for you if there's an ag breach.
But what I'm saying is if we have I used to run a book of business and we had about 20% of our groups had an ag breach every year. That's because we had 15% corridors, we had small groups, and we ran an ag loss ratio of about 50%. So, I mean, that was the plan. In other words, we manage the ag loss ratio just like we manage the spec loss ratio. So don't be alarmed.
Hey, Rick,
Yes.
can I ask you to back up one slide? One more.
I need another go up there. Oh, one more. Here, Wes is taking over. I got to go get a cup of water.
Let me know when you're back.
No, go ahead. Wes will cover it.
Yeah, that caught my attention, the trust. So the employer's going to set up a trust? I'm not sure. I'm not following that.
Well, it's the idea that this is often the case, not a formal agreement where they must do maximum funding. We'll have a couple groups that are
okay, so it's not an insurance trust. We're not issuing policies to a trust. It's
correct.
It's a financial mechanism for the employer. All right. That's up.
All right. Did you handle it, Wes?
Yes, that's right, Jim.
I used to work for Wes's grandfather. Wes's grandfather was an actuary. He was a consultant for Hay Huggins out of Philadelphia. And he ended up coming to Lancaster and became president of Educators Mutual Life for 32 years. And Wes's grandfather hired me out of Penn Mutual in Philadelphia to move to Lancaster. So that's kind of an interesting cycle of life,
World, yeah.
Okay.
Well, keep an open spot for me after this ag breach.
Yeah, after they fire you. Don't you fire Michelle over an ag breach. That's part of the plan.
That's recorded, Chuck and Jim.
The only thing that matters is the bottom line.
Maybe
Right.
Now, maybe this doesn't apply because we're kind of running a program where we're just having a lot of rolling anniversaries. If we had a more formal captive-like program, we'd be asking for short and long policy years to get everybody lined up at the same point. This is the most problematic slide for you guys since we're managing the program in 3 layers. We like to have a reinsurance pool point at $250,000. We want to give you a reinsurance premium, and we want a pure risk transfer. And I realize that's difficult for you guys. But this will be an ongoing debate, and we'll be arm wrestling over this topic for some time. So probably not going to settle it today.
You're a wise man.
But we're not going to back off.
I gotcha.
We believe that the resources and the investments that we've made, we have a staff of nurses. You haven't experienced it yet, but our nurses do a terrific job of screening the applications and assisting in your work. Our other carriers have found they practically rely on our nurses to do all the underwriting, when it's medically underwritten. We believe that we do a lot of screening here at Contribution Health. We turn groups down at the door that we don't think are an underwriting fit. So we think we deliver for you a much more clean quote. We have a much better close ratio. We do pre-screening. We think our technology and rating provides kind of a peer review for you guys. And everything we do, I think, brings you value. And we think that we deserve a lower underwriting fee or expense load or whatever you want to call it because of our work. If you're charging these other brokers 10% of something, you ought to be charging us 7% because you're going to be more efficient. And not to mention, we're going to be buying 50% more stop loss per capita than the other guy. Believe me, if you get a block of business with us and you take our premium divided by the head count, we're buying 50% more than all your other brokers. And it drives us nuts because all your fees are a percent of premium. And we never get credit for buying 50% more premium per person. So for all those reasons, we're going to be pestering you for a more favorable expense load. We talked about this when we were in Eric's office. The renewal is kind of a two-part. We sit down and we agree on how much money we need kind of globally, but then we expect, as well as Craig gets in the broker, we exercise a lot of control in how we go get that premium group by group. When we get into this marketplace that we're in, I don't know why, I hate early renewals, but these employers always want their renewal 90 days in advance. I keep telling them that they're getting a higher renewal because of it. Well, I don't know. I don't know why they do it. But, they're the customer, so we're probably going to be asking you for renewals earlier than you'd like to give.
So, well, then that brings the question up. What would you load on for that?
Well, I don't load anything, but I know you do.
Okay, but they or their broker have an expectation when they kind of run this data through your system.
Yeah, we don't have a load for early renewal. We just play it straight up. We have a projection system, and
right.
We're ready to do the renewal at any time from our perspective.
So you lock in at 90 days.
Now, I'm not.
I think most of the brokers here would expect 60. That would be fair. But Rick's right, some of them may like it earlier if possible, but I think we could probably work with 60.
But is that a lock-in number, Rick?
Yeah, locked in. Done. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I heard Jim earlier use the word, is that your minimum attachment? We don't like minimum attachments. And I'll tell you why. In my view, minimum attachment points are designed to protect you from, you get a drop in exposure. The demographics liable to be going against you because they're laying off the younger people. So you want a minimum to protect that. Well, in our program, I believe you don't need a minimum attachment point because we are actively managing the aggregate loss ratio on the book of business. So in my opinion, if there's some erosion of population that creates additional aggregate risk, such as people laying off the young people, it just means that we're going to have to go after more ag premium to hit our targets, which we do. In other words, the way we view this is we're in charge of getting the ag premium we need to hit the ag claims. So not having a minimum attachment point is our problem, and we're willing to stand up to that problem by way of ag premium.
For that group specifically?
No,
For
the book, for the book.
the book. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, we need some ag accommodation. You know, this isn't new to you guys, right? We just need quick turnaround on an ag claim because these guys, you know, we're competing with the fixed funded products from Aetna and Cigna and United Healthcare and Blue Cross, and you know, all those guys have immediate real time ag accommodation. So
Right.
just to keep up, we got to be able to turn an ag claim around pretty quick.
Well, Michelle can deliver the check when she's coming up to work.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
How about it for real time?
Yeah.
Thanks, Chucky.
All right, I don't know if we're up to 17. We must be getting close to 17 here. So we hate terminal liabilities options, but some people, you know, this goes back to my point that we run long-term programs that work for employers. You don't need a lifeboat when you don't need to put on a life vest when you come into our programs. But they don't believe us, so they want a terminal liability option.
Right.
So we would like a reasonable one if you got one. We got one carrier. We kind of like their program. We pay them $2 for the option, you know. And then if the employer depends to exercise the terminal liability option, there's I don't know what this is, 10% bump or something. But I don't want to go through the details. But we do want a terminal liability option that we're proud to present, and we've seen some pretty good ones in the marketplace.
We can be flexible on that.
This is a service standard we came up with. I don't know that we meet it, but this is what we tell people our goal is. We get it on Monday. We'd like to get it to you by Wednesday. We'd like to get it back from you the following Tuesday and give it to the broker on Wednesday. So that's kind of the ideal 7 workday turnaround. I keep saying it's more important to underwrite the broker than to underwrite the group. If I had my choice, I would underwrite brokers and take every group they gave us. I bet if you took your book of business and did loss ratio by broker, it would be very meaningful. But anyway, that's our plan. We got 4 brokers identified, maybe 5 coming up. I don't know. That's Craig's job. And I think together, guys, we ought to keep an eye on Greg and who he appoints and make sure the broker's committed to our program. The most important thing a broker does for us is got to stand up to the renewal. These people beg for cheap prices at the front end, you know, and then the consequences, well, the renewal's 10% more than it ought to be because they begged for 10% concession at the front end. And then these guys want to run for the hills. They don't want to stand up to it.
Yep.
So we want brokers that are going to stand up to the renewal and believe in what we're doing and tell people that this is a fair price and a fair program.
Yeah.
And back to my slogan, you got to sell it before you can manage it. We put a competitive quote out there, and next thing you know, Highmark comes back, and Highmark lowers the renewal by 15%. You know, so we've got a thing called buoyancy, where we put out a quote, and we get the carrier to agree within limits that if the renewal moves, we're going to move with the renewal up to a point. We call that buoyancy. But in no case are we going to go below, you know, something ridiculous here. And technology, here we showed you our technology. I think this is the 17th point. So we're going to ask you that after we have a proposal that's fully approved, we're going to ask that you allow us to use our technology then to float the proposal up and down with plan design changes without need for your further review. And we kind of mentioned that earlier.
And that's something that we're willing to test with you. Whatever will make you comfortable with our rating system and our plan design changes, we're willing to run that for you. We want your trust.
Gotcha. Okay.
Very impressive. Very well thought out.
That's the end of my show.
Yeah.
You did great.
It's a good show. I'm glad we stayed for the extra 15 minutes. There were some pretty important points raised, actually.
And if you want your actuaries to look at this rate manual stuff, we'll be glad to show them. And we're kind of an open book here.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rick.
There's a lot going on back in there. We have claim distributions. If I can,
Excuse me.
we have.
And this is Greg. To the point of the brokers, yeah, we're very, very concerned about who we pick, and we've given them production requirements. And if they don't meet the requirements, we're not afraid to kick them out and get somebody that will do it. Plus, we're developing a direct-to-employer strategy here at Preferred Healthcare that's in conjunction with Lancaster General and Penn that we're going to also be rolling out because we are licensed to sell this directly also. So we're gonna go after the direct to corporate market here also. So I think we're going to come at it two ways. And I believe that we're going to be very successful with it by doing it that way.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah,
You
anything?
guys have made a big. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said it's good stuff. You guys have made a big investment here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think the next step is, we'll continue to dig into this, but I think the next step is, to keep the RFPs coming in. And, I should get up there, Michelle, and kind of sit with you once you have a couple. And
I have three more.
We'll come to some consensus. All right. We're going to plan to
week.
be up there sometime next week, maybe Wednesday.
Perfect.
We got three more quotes, and I assume you're going to send it to them also, aren't you?
There you have it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I have
Three quotes.
I just got them.
Hey, Rick, can we get the screenshots of the 17 points?
Yeah, I can send you that.
Thank you.
Yeah, plus we recorded this. I can shut off
Yeah.
now.